again, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that probably has at least one spouse in each house interested and the other maybe not. And that is decluttering. The psychological and emotional benefits of decluttering include reduced stress, increased productivity, increased mental health. Mental health gets thrown around a lot. Another word that we can use sometimes in place of that is, depressed, anxiety, stressed, and so forth. But there are a lot of studies out there that show that decluttering your home can improve your mood, your stress, and all these things that go along with that. So let's talk a little bit today about that. First of all, the link between clutter and mental health. And maybe everybody has a different version of clutter. I think clutter is things that are laying around that don't really need to be there. You have 14 books on your end table beside your couch. You maybe read one of them, and the rest of them are just there because you haven't got rid of them or you haven't put them anywhere, maybe in a place out of sight. So this is talking about decluttering not just visual areas, but maybe storage areas of, under closets, or in closets, under stairways, and such. So a cluttered home, simply put, can contribute to feelings of anxiety, overwhelm, and frustration. Like it or not, and even if you notice it or not, when you have clutter, that is taking up mental space in your brain. When you see that on a daily basis, it stresses you out to a degree. Now, there's some people that can handle a lot more of it than others. If you just look in most households, you'll probably have one or more parties in there, maybe some kids, that clutter really doesn't seem to affect them too much, right? They could live in that like pigs in a playpen. But just in my house, when I see we have a big kitchen island, and when that is cluttered a lot, I notice I feel stressed, and it sounds stupid, but it affects me more than it does my wife. And so she has a certain tolerance. I have a certain tolerance. And regardless, at some point, it affects both of us. And so I would say, let's declutter. And so here's some tips today on decluttering, improving your mental health. Good time of year to kind of make some new vows, some new plans, some new ways to live a little bit differently. So some common obstacles to decluttering. In other words, why is it cluttered to begin with? Right? Well, number one, fear of getting rid of things. In other words, it may have sentimental attachment. Or what if I need it later? Those boards that you keep in your workshop, all kinds of mismatched boards and tools and bolts and screws. What if I need this later? Like, I literally could go to my house right now and point out a drawer, multiple drawers in the garage full of bolts and fasteners I've kept for 20 years because, well, I might need these and I hate to just throw these away and so forth. And some of that comes from our upbringing. If you were taught always to save things, keep them, not waste items, things like that, you're going to be more likely to keep them hanging around. But as we're seeing, that's not necessarily a benefit, especially if you're not actually going to use it, or the chances of you using it are very slim. Another obstacle is overwhelm and procrastination. You don't know where to start. You have clutter. Literally, you could point to clutter in every room in the house. Where do you start? So in that case, that creates even more stress. So you just forget about it and you go on with life as is. Number three, time constraints. Feeling like you don't have enough time to declutter properly. All right. You're a perfectionist, and just doing it a little bit is not good enough. You got to completely gut it. Well, if you don't have the time to do that, you feel like you don't have enough time to do that, then you don't even start at all. So it's a little bit like point number two, where you're procrastinating, but just for a different reason. And number four, emotional resistance to letting things go. We mentioned in point number one, sentimental attachment, and this goes a little bit along with that. You have a sentimental attachment to something because this was passed down through generations, and we're not saying you got to go out and throw away everything that's in your house that you don't use. And there is some validity to keeping some sentimental things around that might remind you, or something that a family member passed on to you, or something like that. But that's one of the big obstacles to doing this, between upbringing and sentimental attachment and not letting things go to waste and so forth. It's really hard to do that. Now, this doesn't mean you have to throw all of this stuff in a dumpster. Just because you can't use it doesn't mean somebody can't. So we would recommend, a Goodwill type store. Depending in a local market, we have the Ark here in Shipshewana. It's similar to Goodwill, but it's local instead of a chain. So those are some of the obstacles to decluttering. Really, it's a mindset switch. It's a minimalist approach. Do I really need this? Look in your closet and point out the clothes you have not worn in 2 years. This isn't even saying if you've, quote, outgrown them or they don't fit. This is just clothes you have that would fit. You just never wear them. Why keep them, right? Year after year after year, you have clothes in your closet that you don't even touch, much less wear. It's an opportunity, one, to declutter, two, to give somebody else an opportunity to buy that product or get it free, not product, but clothes item, for next to nothing if you give it to one of these stores, right? So it's a mindset more than anything. So you need to discuss in your family a minimalist approach. Hopefully I don't have to say that word too often, because I trip up on it. But this can really focus on quality over quantity. Instead of having a lot of stuff, let's have a little bit of stuff that we actually use, that's valuable, that's high quality, that kind of thing. Keeping items that truly add value or bring joy to your life. And what that is in your life is going to look different than what it looked like in my life. So we're not here to point fingers or tell you what you need to get rid of, but you need to talk to yourself and your family about what you can eliminate that's going to help to declutter your lifestyle. So, and the importance of being intentional about the things that you bring into your home. In other words, why am I buying this? Do I need it? Is it because this would be nice? Is it one of those myriad of kitchen appliances that you buy because you saw it on TV and everybody else is getting it and you use it 3 times and you never use it again? How many of those things do you have in your kitchen? So we could probably do an episode on decluttering your bathroom, another one on decluttering your kitchen, another one on bedrooms, and so forth. But for today, we're just talking about overall decluttering and the mindset shift and how to reduce the stress in your life. So a step-by-step decluttering process is just like anything else you do. One step at a time. You just have to start. Don't try to do it all at once. Don't try to do it all in one day. Don't try to do it all in a week. Pick one area. What is the one area in your home where if you your first thought, what's the quickest, easiest way to declutter? All right. It's important to start with a manageable space. You've probably heard of the debt snowball. If you're paying off debts, this is the Dave Ramsey method of paying off debt. You start with your debts smallest to largest. Doesn't matter about interest rates. It just matters size of the debt. And the reason is if you pay off a small debt and then you pay off the next small or biggest, you start to get momentum going. And you get the quote snowball effect. The more it rolls downhill, the bigger it gets. And I think that applies here with decluttering as well. Find a small closet. Find an area, under the stairway that's had things stored in there for years. We just did this last week where we went down there. We had suitcases left over from when we were in college. We haven't used those things in 15 years. So we got out the suitcases we never use, took them to a place that could use them. Now somebody else has a good used suitcase that they got really, really cheap, and we have a lot more space under our stairway. So start small, do one area, then do another area, and this is going to create momentum as you go through this decluttering process. Set goals. Define what you want to achieve before you start. All right. Is your goal to completely gut it? Is your goal to find the things in there that really matter and get rid of the rest? or what's your goal? So define the goal, start small, set goals, sort item by categories, clothes, books, kitchenware, rather than tackle everything at once. I did this one time a few months ago, actually a few years ago, but I made 3 piles. All right. And to be upfront, this was when my wife was out of town, when I find it easier to declutter because I don't have to ask anybody about it. Right. So I had a pile that was trash. We have a pile that's going to, Goodwill or Salvation Army or something like that. And then we had a pile of, I'm not sure if I should get rid of this without getting in trouble. All right. And so I put them in 3 different piles, got rid of the one definitely. The second one took to Goodwill. Third one, I waited till she got home and we discussed what to do with this and that. And that's a way to kind of organize things as you go. So, this is somewhat taxing because you're making decisions. And in some cases, you're breaking emotional ties to these items that you're keeping. And so you just have to make decisions. That box of papers from your kids' elementary school where they drew cute little pictures, do you really need to keep that? If you do, and that's really important to you, by all means, keep it. But you're making decisions that have emotions behind them, and that's what makes it hard. That's why some people never start or don't have an interest in doing this. So some more practical decluttering tips. Use the 4-box method. I mentioned I had 3 piles. You can make a pile to keep or a box, a pile to donate, a pile to sell, and a pile to throw away. Some things are just throw away-ish, right? But some things you might want to sell. Like, you paid $200 for this and you never use it, but you don't want to just give it away. Maybe somebody will buy it for $50. And so you can use that. Maybe you can make a little money in the process of doing this. Set a time. Limit your decluttering sessions to 30 minutes or an hour. All right. Don't try to go all day. It's going to wear you out. You're going to get frustrated. And what I have found, if I try to do too much at once, basically I end up moving clutter from one area to another. And I'm not really accomplishing anything except labor, right? Not really helping anything. So we suggest another tip is tackle storage areas first. So in other words, don't just start in the bedroom or in the kitchen. Tackle storage areas first. And one reason I like to do this is because if you clear out storage areas, there's also that now you have an area where you can transition things that you see constantly into areas that are hidden, because that gives the appearance of uncluttered, right? You might know it's in there, but at least you don't see it every day. And seeing it every day is what creates that stress and that mental load on your brain. All right. And maybe once a month, you just kind of cruise through areas and say, I really don't need this anymore. And, somebody else can use that more than I could. And so that's a good way to just have form a habit of living in a minimalist way and decluttering as you go. So what do you do with sentimental items? And I gave an example before about what a sentimental item might be: a paper from one of your children, something that was handed down to you by your parents or whatever. But, it's okay to save those things. There's a memory box approach, saving a few meaningful items instead of everything. Letting go of guilt. It's okay to release things that no longer serve you, even if they're emotionally significant. All right. It's not disrespectful to the person that you got that from or that it represents. And one thing you could do is, I bet almost everybody has big boxes of pictures. All right. Paper pictures. When we used to get pictures developed type pictures, right? Get those digitized. Get them on whatever, a thumb drive, put them on one of those rotating screens that you can set out and you can be reminded every day of the pictures. Right now, it's just sitting there in a closet and you don't even know what's in there. So go through pictures and get them digitized. So some of the benefits of decluttering the home, really your work life, your relationships, and just an overall sense of well-being. When you have a lot of things laying around, there's a sense of out of control. All right. Too many things. Oh, I'm not using that. I should be because we have it. That pile is things I haven't attended to. I need to attend to that. I need to quit procrastinating. All that adds up in your brain. And so our goal is to relieve that stress load on your brain and your mind. It'll improve your own well-being. It'll improve your family members' well-being as you go. Another tip is how to maintain a simplified home. All right. When we do budgeting with our home or our business, whenever we add on an expense like a monthly expense or a big purchase or something like that, I'm always looking for ways to counter that by cutting something. And that helps maintain as you grow as a company or as a family, an individual, you're adding new, but you're subtracting some old, so you're not constantly adding expenses. And in the same way, the one in, one out rule applies to clutter. If you buy something, what's something we can get rid of? All right. Because if you're buying, you're adding to your clutter. And now I get it. If you're buying a new car or something, you're not going to be getting rid of an old car just because, or some big item like that. You might, but you get my point. Any item brought into into the house, one must leave. Periodically reassess your possessions. Could be every quarter, every year, maybe at the beginning of every new year. Do we really need this? I said I was going to wear this, but I still haven't worn it in another year. Maybe I can get rid of that. Mindful shopping habits. Only buy things you truly need or love, avoiding impulse buys to add to clutter. I think that's where a great deal of our clutter comes from. You go through a store, it's amazing when you go to a mall or a shopping center and you haven't been in one in several months. It's amazing how many things come to your mind that you, quote, need while you're shopping. And you drive home with 4 bags worth. And if you wouldn't have gone out shopping that day, your life would have been just as good because you didn't need any of that stuff to begin with. So think of that as you're out. Don't just buy stuff to buy it. Sometimes you get a rush off of buying something new. You feel good about yourself, or you feel cool now because you got something that everybody else has. Digital decluttering, we talked about that a bit. Organized files, doesn't have to just be photos, but files. If you have stacks of paper around the house in your office, I think offices are one of the biggest areas where things can get cluttered. And that's where you can digitize a lot of things, clean up your email inboxes. How many people know they have 1,000 emails they haven't read yet? Clean that up. That's decluttering, especially for people that are online a lot. So we won't get into the details, but think about where you spend the most time. For most people, it's going to be kitchen, living room, and bedroom. After you're done with the small areas or the storage areas, maybe start on those. How can we make our living room a place you can walk into and not have that clutter? Can I walk into my bedroom and just take a deep breath? You feel at peace. That's your happy place because you don't have clutter in every corner anymore. All right. It's a place you can go to relax. And that's what our ultimate goal is with this. Bathrooms. A lot of stuff can build up in bathrooms over time. So besides cleaning, obviously, storage, tossing expired products. Do you have mouthwash from, 2016 in there? If you do, it's probably a different color and you wouldn't want that anyhow. So your office. Personally, I can barely work in an office that has a cluttered desk. I have to clean it off before I start working or I can't concentrate because all I can see around me is stacks, right? So get that cleaned out before you start work. So there's some tips for living room, bedroom, bathroom, office. Kitchen's usually a major project because you have a lot of utensils, pans, bowls that are mismatched. You don't use them anymore, or all of them, or some have been broken. Now you got 2 of this and 3 of that. And maybe it's time to just start over. Pots and pans are not a big expense typically. And it might be a good idea to just get rid of them and start over. And it's easy to organize and stack because when you buy new stuff, it never matches the old. And so it doesn't stack very well. So another thing you can do along this vein is labeling. Label things like baskets and drawers so it's easy to know what's in it. Also, think of those drawers in your, usually they're around the kitchen, that's your junk drawer. Well, how many people have like 4 junk drawers because you've just never taken the time to label what goes in there? You just randomly chuck stuff in there. This is the time of year. Get in there, clear those drawers out so you can put other things in there that are organized and you know what goes in there. Maybe you have one room only. If you use a lot of batteries and items, have one drawer only for that. Label it and nothing else goes in there. No car charge, no battery chargers, no phone chargers, nothing, just batteries. Maybe another drawer has all your chargers. And that way you're not constantly wondering, where is this? Where is that? How much frustration do you have because you can't find things when you want them? I know we've had that in our home. So, as you think about decluttering, I want you to think of this as a lifestyle. If you get on a health eating plan and it gets you to your goal, in order for you to stay there, you're going to have to stay on that plan. In other words, this is a lifestyle. That's why these workout programs that are super high intensity and, they're kicking and yelling and screaming for 25, 35 minutes, those may work to get you in shape, but that's not a sustainable lifestyle over the course of your life. All right. People, they get tired of that. They get burned out at it. You get injuries, you get older and can't do that kind of intensity. Same with this decluttering. Make this a lifestyle. Don't just do this one time and say, now we're good, because you're going to bring in new junk and you're going to go to garage sales and bring in their junk. And the same thing's going to just repeat itself. So declutter, make it a lifestyle. Make sure when you go out, get stuff you need. Don't get stuff you don't need. All it does is add stress to your life and increase your expenses. So I think as I was researching this topic and the link, John Deloney has written a book called Living a Non-Anxious Life. All right. I'd look up that book and read that. That has a lot of practical tips on decluttering, not just your house, but your life, your emotional baggage, things like that. Somebody more along that field is better at talking about that than me. But some of the research I did on the psychology of clutter. So let me just read this for you quick and then we'll wrap this up. But clutter overloads the senses, hijacking mental bandwidth, which would otherwise be available for focused thought. The cumulative distraction severely reduces concentration spans, cognitive function, and ability to effectively multitask without feeling fatigued. Too much visual noise from the disarray frazzles mental circuits in much the same way as skipping between digital tabs or apps strains the brain. You know what it's like when you've been on your phone too long, jumping here, jumping there, seeing one stimuli after another. You walk away, you're tired. You're worn out. You've got nothing done. Same thing with physical objects in your home. So take that into, that's the effect on concentration. The emotional consequences of a mess in your home. And I know some people have higher tolerances than others, but beyond literal sensory overload, clutter disrupts deeper psychological needs for order, simplicity, and environmental mastery. Humans innately crave visual balance, predictability, and reasonable control over their living and working landscape. When chronic disarray remains unaddressed, negative emotional consequences often arise. Feelings of internal tension, external chaos, anger, sadness, and general unease frequently stem from or get exacerbated by clutter. Unfinished organizational tasks breed impatience, resentment, guilt, shame, and embarrassment, which accumulate like the clutter itself. On the positive side, evidence clearly links decluttering activities with measurable gains in mental health and well-being. So think about that. There's a clear link between decluttering and improving your mental health and well-being. The process of consciously sorting through belongings, removing excess, and implementing organizational systems can provide both short and long-term boosts to mood outlook and life satisfaction. And parents, think about the example you're setting for your children. Everything you do, everything you say, how you keep your house, all matter. If you can declutter, you can keep them from getting to the point where that's going to be a constant struggle for them. So hopefully these decluttering tips can help you a little bit, help you, encourage you to get started. We want you to have a great 2025. We want you to have increased mental health and well-being feeling. And if it's as simple as getting rid of some stuff in your house, that's free, right? And you might actually make money off of it. So that's a win-win. Getting rid of a few things. I would caution you, don't get rid of just everything. Some things you might need to ask your wife or husband about before you go chuck it. You might think it's not worth keeping around, but they might have different thoughts on that. So I'm not trying to stir up any tension in that part of things. Ask me how I know. But seriously, the power of a simplified home, it's going to give you more peace. It's going to help your well-being, and it's going to just create better relationships in the home. So take this decluttering. Maybe while you were listening, you thought of somebody that could use this that maybe doesn't listen on a regular basis. Share this episode with them. Send it over to them. Give us some tips for decluttering. Go to the YouTube page and comment on this and let us know how you've decluttered, how it's helped your mental health. And we'd appreciate that. We appreciate you listening. And everybody have a great day.